She started crying. I got down on one knee, and she's just crying. I was like, will you marry me? And she's just crying. And I said, I asked you a question. It'd be nice for you to answer it, please.
Jennifer Wilbanks became famous for all the wrong reasons. She disappeared before her 600-guest wedding, claimed she was kidnapped, then admitted Shelley'd. But there's a part of her story that never made headlines. Before sharing away, Jennifer had been hiding something devastating. Her past was darker than anyone knew. Her relationship with her fiancé wasn't what it seemed. And when the cameras stopped rolling, a shocking lawsuit revealed the truth about what really happened to the money. The woman who fooled America was hiding secrets that explain everything. Jennifer Carol Wilbanks was born on February 28, 1973, and grew up in Georgia, where life moved slow and simple. By her early 30s, she was living in Duluth, a quiet suburb outside Atlanta, and working at an OB/GYN clinic. People around her saw her as outgoing and friendly, someone who kept close to her church and ran almost every day to clear her mind. She came from a strict Baptist world, and so did the people she chose to spend time with. Still, there were a few rough patches behind her. In the 1990s, she had some small run-ins with the law, including shoplifting charges that even led to short stints in jail. It was something she rarely talked about, something she tried to leave behind as she rebuilt her life. By 2003, things felt steady. She was 30. She had a job she liked, and she was surrounded by family who believed she was finally on the right track. That same year, her aunt introduced her to a younger man named John Mason. Jennifer and John clicked almost instantly. They both loved running and fitness and bonded over long jogs through their neighborhoods. John had been a little wild when he was younger, but by the time he met Jennifer, he had settled down and become deeply religious. Their faith was a big part of their connection, so big that they made a promise to stay celibate until marriage. Jennifer went along with it, but it bothered her more than she admitted. One of her friends later said she would sometimes open up about how upsetting it was that she and John were not intimate, but she kept that frustration tucked away and tried to focus on the future they were building. The relationship grew fast. After about 18 months, John proposed with a 3-carat diamond solitaire ring, and Jennifer said yes. Suddenly, there were dress fittings and venue tours and guest lists that seemed to grow by the week. Everyone thought she was heading toward a dream wedding and a dream life. Jennifer thought so, too, at least on the surface. By early 2005, the wedding had turned into a full-blown event. The ceremony was set for April 30, 2005, and the scale was huge. She had 28 people in the bridal party and more than 600 guests invited. It was planned for the Atlanta Athletic Club and the cost was estimated around $100,000. Jennifer was not the type to hand everything off to others. She studied every decision and every small detail, from the cake knife to the flower girl silver basket. Her bridesmaids later joked about how many showers and parties they had attended and how much they had already spent on dresses and gifts. Everywhere Jennifer went, people wanted updates about the big day. She smiled a lot and told everyone things were running smoothly. But inside, something was shifting. Planning such a massive wedding would exhaust anyone. But Jennifer was dealing with more than deadlines and decorations. There were emotional strains she did not know how to talk about. The tension around their vow of no intimacy was still there, and normal pre-wedding nerves grew stronger as the date got closer. The pressure became heavier each week, pressing on her every time she looked at her overflowing to-do list. She tried to keep going. She told herself she could handle it, that the stress would disappear once they walked down the aisle. But friends later noticed small cracks, the kind that hide inside quick smiles and tired eyes. Jennifer herself would later say she felt overwhelmed by everything. She said she felt crushed by the list of things she needed to finish and the feeling that she was running out of time. She even said she felt like she was running from herself. Police later pointed out that anyone facing a wedding with 600 guests and 28 attendants might have cold feet. It would be strange if they did not. But Jennifer said nothing. She held into her routine and tried to seem calm even though something inside her was close to breaking. April arrived and none around her had any idea what was coming. Her family did not expect it, her fiancé did not expect it. the hundreds of friends and relatives waiting for a beautiful ceremony did not expect it. On the evening of April 26, 2005, everything around Jennifer Wilbanks looked normal. It was just 4 days before her wedding and she slipped out of her house in Duluth, Georgia around 8:30 p.m. for a routine run. She did this often, so nothing seemed strange at first. What no one noticed right away was that she had left her purse, her phone, and even her engagement ring sitting on the dresser. Those things would later feel like a silent warning. At that moment, John Mason had no idea. He only knew that the minutes were stretching too long, and Jennifer still wasn't back. By 11 p.m., he was driving through dark streets, searching parks, hospitals, any place she might have gone. When the clock hit midnight, and he still had no sign of her, panic swallowed him. He grabbed his phone and called 911. By the next morning, April 27th, her disappearance had become the center of Duluth's world. Hundreds of volunteers showed up forming lines across parks and trails. More than 100 officers, deputies, and firefighters spread through the city. Helicopters hovered overhead and search dogs pawed through quiet woods. Jennifer's smiling face appeared on every newscast. And her family begged the public for help. They said over and over that she would never run away on her own. Reporters called her the vanished bride, and the story spread from local news to a very major channel. Rumors grew fast. Some feared she was taken during her run. Others wondered if she had been attacked. And in the background, even though police said he wasn't a suspect, people whispered about John. He was questioned again and again. He later said he went from pure terror to anger because he was trying to find the woman he loved while defending himself against strangers' suspicions. He felt like the world was closing in on him. By April 28, there were still no real leads. The FBI and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation joined the search. Investigators admitted that premarital anxiety was one possibility, but they refused to assume she had left by choice. People found clumps of hair near a retention pond, pieces off clothing, and even objects someone called murder weapons. But every clue dissolved into nothing. As April 29 approached, hope began to fade. Jennifer's family offered a $100,000 reward. On April 26, she slipped away and bought a Greyhound bus ticket out of Atlanta. A taxi took her straight to the bus station near Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. She carried about $140 in her pocket and a pair of scissors she had taken from home. Somewhere between a gas station restroom and the bus terminal, she stood in front of a mirror and chopped off her long brown hair, trying to become someone nobody would recognize. Then she boarded a bus heading west. Her trip stretched across the country, first to Dallas, then to Las Vegas, then to Albuquerque. In 3 days, she traveled more than 1,400 mi. Passengers later said she barely spoke, kept to herself, and looked tense through most of the ride. She did talk to one older couple, a man and a woman who seemed kind to her. Their presence would later become used for the fake kidnappers she invented. During the entire trip, she didn't call a single family member or friend. Back in Georgia, people thought she had vanished during a simple run. Nobody imagined she was sitting on bus in another time zone trying to outrun her own life. The most haunting part is that she had no real plan. She later admitted she just knew she couldn't face the wedding, but felt too scared or ashamed to cancel it like a normal person. So, she ran. Albuquerque felt far enough away and empty enough for her to disappear into it. She checked into a cheap motel under a false name, stayed at least one night, and tried to hold herself together. But by April 29, reality crept in. Her face was everywhere on the news. Strangers were searching for her. Police were hunting for answers. Her guilt started pushing against her fear. And eventually she called her fiancé. Even then she couldn't tell the truth. So she invented the kidnapping story hoping it would soften the blow of what she had done. People struggled to understand how an educated woman with no history of violence could invent something as serious as sexual assault and kidnapping. Psychologists later said cold feet before a big wedding was far more common than people admitted. Her reaction, however, spiraled far beyond anything typical. Articles later used her case to show how doubt and pressure can twist a person's judgment until they make choices that shock even themselves. Within a week of coming home, Jennifer entered an inpatient treatment program. Her family said she was dealing with physical and mental issues that had pushed her into a corner she didn't know how to escape. In a public apology through her church, she said she had been running from herself. A simple line that revealed just how lost she had felt. One detail from the investigation made her actions feel even more desperate. Before leaving town, she had only $40 available in her bank account. She withdrew it right before getting on the bus. She didn't have thousands saved. She didn't have a new identity or a plan for a new life. She had a small amount of cash, a pair of scissors, and a burst of panic that carried her across 3 states. She later said she only wanted some time alone to think. When the truth came out that Jennifer Wilbank had made up the entire story, everything around her shifted in a single breath. The sympathy that had poured in only days earlier turned sharp. The news cycle, which once treated her like a victim in danger, now treated her like a national punchline. Late-night hosts mocked her. Headlines repeated the name Runaway Bride until it stopped sounding like a joke and became part of her identity. But beneath all the jokes, there was a real sense of anger. Police departments had dropped everything to search for her. Volunteers had walked miles through woods and fields. Ordinary people had prayed for her safety. And now they felt tricked. The Gwinnett County Sheriff's Department estimated it had spent about $60,000 trying to find her. Dotha's mayor said the city itself had burned through between $40,000 and $60,000 in overtime and logistics. All that work, all that fear, and it had never been real. People in her hometown said they felt betrayed. One resident summed up what many were feeling when she said they had all been worried sick. And it was all a lie. Investigators in Georgia were no calmer. Once they proved that Jennifer had lied, they had to decide what to do with her. On one side, they saw a woman who was clearly shaken and fragile. On the other, they saw a person who had reported a crime that never happened, wasted public time, and drawn national attention away from real missing people. The story had even stirred up criticism about missing white woman syndrome, the idea that the media gives far more attention to certain victims while ignoring countless others who need help just as badly. Jennifer's story had been a perfect example of how a single case could swallow the news while real emergencies stayed in the dark. Pressure kept building. Gwinnett County District Attorney Danny Porter called a grand jury. In late May 2005, almost 1 month after Jennifer boarded that bus, a Georgia grand jury indicted her on a felony charge of making false statements to law enforcement. That charge carried a possible 5-year prison sentence under Georgia law. She also faced a misdemeanor count for filing a false police report. It was a shocking fall. In just weeks, she had gone from a missing bride to a possible felon. Jennifer and her lawyers moved fast. They knew a trial could destroy whatever was left of her life. On June 2, 2005, she stood in court and entered a no contest plea to the felony charge. The misdemeanor was dropped. When she spoke, she cried and apologized. The judge listened, but made it clear that her actions had consequences. Her sentence was 2 years of probation and 120 hours of community service. She also had to continue mental health evaluations and counseling. Then came the financial part. She had to pay $2,550 to the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office and $13,350 to the city of Dotha, a total of about $1,580. It was only a small slice of the actual cost, but other departments chose not to pursue repayment, possibly because dragging it out would only keep the spotlight on a case everyone was ready to move past. If Jennifer followed every rule during probation, the felony would disappear from her record. 2 years later, that is exactly what happened. Even with the legal part settled, the personal fallout cut much deeper. Her closest friends, the ones who had cried for her and stood by her during wedding planning, felt humiliated. They had bought dresses, thrown parties, and defended Jennifer when she seemed overwhelmed. When the truth surfaced, they felt used. One bridesmaid explained how angry the group was. They felt like they had been made into fools on a national stage. And then there was John Mason, the man who had been waiting at altar. People expected him to be furious, but he greeted Jennifer with kindness when she returned. On April 30, 2005, the same day they were supposed to get married, He met her at her parents' home in Gainesville and handed her the engagement ring she had left behind. He even made sure she put it back on her finger.